So in Agile Project Management, we talk about fixing time and fixing resources and having scope be the actual thing that varies or is flexible once we get into the project. And people say, well, how do you pull that off? How can I let scope be the thing that varies and still tell people what they're going to get at the end of a project or the end of a release? And the answer to that question is that you don't flex scope at the feature level. That's too broad. You don't say, well, you may or may not get this feature. Just depends on whether we finish it or not. That would be irresponsible planning, irresponsible committing. What we do instead is agree at the beginning of a release on a set of features to build, and then use user stories as the point where we flex scope. So for every feature you can think of, there's the simple version of that feature, which I call the goat path version of the feature. And then the very complicated bells and whistles version of that feature, which I could call the super highway version of that feature. So think of a continuum all the way from the goat path along to the super highway version of a feature. And somewhere along that continuum, along that spectrum, is the right amount of money, the right amount of time to invest in that feature. So think about search as an example. I could get a good developer to build me a simple search that matches a single string across a known text field in easily a day. The superhighway version of search might be what people have come to now expect from a Google search. I want to search across the whole universe of documents. I don't care where the text is located. I want wildcards. I want stemming. I want you to show me results in ranked by relevance and tell me why you picked that result and show me where in the context my search terms were found. That's a version of search that literally takes years to build. The kicker is that you don't always know up front where along that continuum is that sweet spot, is the right amount of investment to make in a given feature. This is where user stories come into play. User stories can help us to find that sweet spot as we go. With user stories that are small, independent, testable pieces of functionality, we can start by building the goat path version of each feature, and then in the light of experience of people actually using the software, determine whether what we've built is sufficient or whether we need to keep going. And for any given feature, because you're balancing a whole bunch of features in a release, you can more easily identify, actually by using the software, when we've invested enough in one feature and when we ought to put our time and resources into one of these other features. So that's why user stories are such a powerful tool, in that they help us to right-size each of our features within a given release.